how did you see Atlanta changing over the course? You know, we've going from 60s, 70s into Ambassador Young's term into the 80s. What was happening in the city? Like, how was Atlanta, moving forward? What was the mood? What was the atmosphere? You talked about this idea of a new South. Did you move from vision to actualization, or were you on that path, or were there some setbacks?
Well, when Maynard was elected, there was a continued white flight from the city, and there were strong feelings that the city would never be fully integrated again. It would be a black city. And there are a lot of people who refer to it that way now.
Yeah.
Even though the population is probably more even now, split between blacks and whites. During Maynard's term, I wouldn't be surprised if the black per capita population wasn't closer to 70%, or maybe even a little bit higher. But it didn't start out that way. People left. And Maynard was very bold, and the introduction of women, African Americans, the conversation about minority and female business, that scared a lot of people. Not everybody, but it scared a lot of people. And there was a feeling that there would never be business back in the city again.
Wow.
Then Georgia Pacific comes, and they move in downtown Atlanta. And that kind of broke the curse.
So it was like this dead period, it was quiet.
Dead quiet period when the downtown department stores, left and went to the malls, and there's a strong feeling and a lot of discussion among blacks and whites in civic life as to whether, was the city going to die?
Yeah.
And the region would survive.
Wow.
When in fact, though it's true that there was a lot of development north of Atlanta, North Fulton, the development continued to come closer and closer into town.
Why was that?
I think for a lot of reasons. I think cities are attractive.
Yeah.
They're different from suburban life. You have all the infrastructure. You had the MARTA system. You had the rail system. You had the road system. You have the infrastructure in the city that is very, very hard to build in other places. And you had universities and colleges with young people coming and people associated with the universities and colleges who wanted to be in the city. They didn't want to be someplace else. So I would attribute a good bit of the stabilization of the city to higher education. Atlanta had, I did research a few years ago, 8 colleges and universities in 1890.
Wow.
Long time ago.
Sure.
5 of them were historically black.
Yeah.
And then Oglethorpe, Agnes Scott, and Georgia Tech.
That's incredible.
And it's 1890.
Yeah.
So it's been a center of higher education
for a long time.
And the fact that the colleges and universities stayed and grew and got stronger and larger and their reputations got stronger, I think has a big role to play in the success of the city.
So when I hear that, right, like, and I'm proud, if anybody meets me, like, they're gonna know I'm from Atlanta, I went to Morehouse, and then, there's a whole bunch of other stuff behind that. But those two things are coming out first, right? and so when I hear things like from 1890, Atlanta was, this center for higher education. And then I look at, and I hear you talk about from 1963 to, as a student at the March on Washington, you see John Lewis on stage, and you see Martin King on stage, and you see folks like Ambassador Young helping to lead the movement. And then some kind of way, all of y'all end up in Atlanta, right? What's the secret sauce? Like, what is it about this place? What has it been? Because it's easy to say, right, like Atlanta, we can talk about the civil rights movement, and that's drawing a lot of people here, but 1890, right, to civil rights era to the Olympics, like, what is it about this place that makes it special?
Well, everybody's got theories.
Yeah.
So remember now, Atlanta's forming as a city, 1830s, 1840s, 1860s, okay? You have the Civil War. Atlanta was the crossroads of railroads. In the 1800s, there were times in Atlanta when there were 11 railroads. 11 different railroad lines.
Wow.
So there's something special about a railroad. It was before planes. And before really cars were as prevalent as they are today, where every family member has a car, right? Something happens with a railroad. People are coming and going. Somebody's getting off. Somebody's getting on. The people who are getting off are bringing ideas and thoughts and experiences from other places. Atlanta was one of those places that embraced, one of those towns that embraced the people coming off.
Got it.
Embrace not just the people, but their ideas.
See, I hate those people because those are the people who are cheering against the Falcons at the Falcons games. No,
but that's been going on since the 1800s. So the reason Atlanta is burned is because it's a logistics center. So if you look at the history of Atlanta, it's a history of logistics, railroads, roads. It's a history of higher education. And it was never a plantation town in the sense that, sure, there were slaves, but it was a commercial town. It's where people came to exchange ideas, money, goods, and services. And that's who Atlanta is today. Just a 21st century version of it.
Sure.
The airport is Atlanta's railroad system. 100, 200 years later.
The same ideas, same folks.
Same people getting off and coming on.
There's too many of them coming down here to party. It's a pandemic now.
Well, in the Cotton States Exposition, which was 1895, Atlanta declared itself the crown jewel of the South. The leadership declared it, and Henry Grady and Booker T. Washington was involved. And they declared themselves the crown jewel of the South. Culture, business, art, education, commerce. And they said everyone's welcome. It was the first national and international ad campaign for Atlanta. So Atlanta's been inviting people since the 1890s. And the argument then, so I've read, was that they were trying to rebuild the city. So they needed the investment.
Got it. No.
So it's part of the reason that we still do this, it's in our DNA. And it's a strange place to do this because we're not on a river, a major river. And we're not on the coast, on the port. You'd expect this at a port city. But we created our own infrastructure to create a port. It's called Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport.